See, I pay attention to text. All right, so quick demo. You guys should be able to see me in this camera. I'm the red, orange, and yellow guy. So that means I'm the warmest thing inside the picture. So we're looking for, and yes, if this was a bridal party, I would be the hottest thing inside the picture. So the wife hates that joke. I'm not embracing it, it's fun. But anyway, we're looking for blue and black spots to start moving on their own. We're always gonna have blue and black in the photo, or in the camera frame. So basically we're looking for them to take shape and, you know, form into something. So we're also going to have a blue dot on the video. The blue dot bounces around the screen, giving us the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. It kind of helps direct our eye into where to look on the video. You will get this full video back. We're going to do starts and stops with this, Laurent. So with that, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name properly. But with that, the hardware is great, the software sucks. So if we record for too long, we lose all footage. So I will give you the direction of when to start and stop. It is recording now, and I do that on purpose so everybody knows how to watch for that blue dot. You also have a cheat sheet on the side here. It's going to be on the right-hand side. It's a bar. Gives you the highest temperature and the lowest temperature in the frame at that particular moment. That will not be on your video, just so everybody knows. You'll only have the blue dot. So if I find something, obviously I do a quick still. It turns into a photo, and you get that back as well so you can see the temperature differences. So keep the camera on your left, that's the wire side, and you always want to keep it horizontal. So that one goes to you. I say we get both cameras out. You guys are really quiet. This is going to be an interesting group. So sometimes it's really weird. I either get a really rowdy group or I get a super quiet group.
I'm trying to pay attention.
I know, I talk a lot.
It seems like a lot of homework here.
For you or for me?
For us. I feel like, you know, if we're not paying attention.
Well, that's why we record everything. So in case you know, we're talking with somebody or whispering secrets, you know, then you have everything on the radio.
Passing notes.
I know, right?
Yeah. Wow, okay.
All right, so quick demo with this guy. Notice you cannot see me in the camera. It should be pretty dark in there.
It's a GoPro.
It is a GoPro, but it's an altered GoPro. We're going to turn on some lights.
It's a ghost catching.
Exactly. So basically, we're looking at lighting that you can't see with your own eyes. So the hope here is that we're going to be able to capture something we can't see with our own eyes. The cool thing about this is we're going to be using lasers with this as well to kind of detect any kind of motion that's going through it. So this is a two-person job, and the lights on here are magnificent. So when I start watching the video, I'm looking for motion through the lasers, and I'm also looking for things that should not be able to reflect light because it's light we can't see with our own eyes. I'm going to show you more about this as we kind of go through the evening. Right now it's not recording. No, you don't want it to record you.
These two look sketchy. They had shots.
I can always move the camera.
Maybe we shouldn't have that information was not for sharing.
Not that much of a lady. They can hold their own.
That's probably not necessary. Be the first one to run.
Well, you guys will be able to switch back and forth too, so you'll be just fine. This is the neuralizer for Men in Black. None of you are going to remember a damn thing.
Funny.
Lasers.
They probably didn't. Have you ever seen? Did you see?
Oh my god, it's like we're at a club.
So,
Alright.
why are we using lasers? Because you cannot see the lasers from the pen to the ground until something passes through it. So we're literally going to be looking for that on the camera as we kind of go through the evening.
You guys can handle
Now,
Wait, I'm so confused. What?
So-
Oh, sorry, I was trying
you're good. I'll explain it again. So notice you can see the green dots, and you can
Yeah.
see the pen in my hand, but you can't see the lasers until something passes through it. See how my hand lights up?
Yeah.
So basically we're looking for motion to go through there. Okay? So, lasers get making a lot of trouble. We're going to keep them on the ground and up to 3 to 4 feet in front of you only. So really you're going to be trying to find in through the laser grid. We're going to be using two different styles. This one gives us red squares. Why do I want red squares and green dots? Because when we capture something here, I can take the still from that camera, put it in 3D software, and give you guys a full 3D view of what I caught with measurements. So, I've had this for almost a year now, and I haven't caught anything that the software will take, so hopefully tonight's our lucky night. So this is not an always in the moment type find. It's always about the review on the video. So both of these are going to go to you. Yeah, lucky you. So again, if you guys need to switch things up, I would definitely get used to it.
that green screen technology.
Kind of.
Excited.
So yeah, the red one is a toggle switch. So once you have it on, it stays on until you shut it off. The pen has a button.
I like it. I like geeky stuff.
You have to hold it. You don't want to cross the streams. I know it's a bad Ghostbusters joke, but it does work here. But again, with that, you want to try to keep them side by side when you're using them together. So that way she has a nice array, like basically you're creating pyramids here. She can be able to film. So if we have any motion, you will be able to find it. And you don't need to keep them on all the time. I'll always tell you when it's safe to change them.
No, we're gonna play it like
Spirit boxes. We're going to be using 4 different types of spirit boxes.
Spirit boxes.
So, spirit boxes, if you're unfamiliar with them, hang on, this is my show. So, if you're unfamiliar with spirit boxes, these are a way for us to communicate with the dead. It's going to sweep through FM radio stations at a very quick rate. On your TV shows, this is the white noise. And then your host will actually tell you what he thinks he heard in the middle of it, trying to convince you of the same thing. Those are usually disembodied voices, meaning they're not radio chatter. Tonight, because you guys aren't used to listening to just white noise plus history from me, you're probably going to fall asleep. I slow these guys down on purpose. Another method is to be able to listen to the chatter that comes through. So the radio DJs, the song lyrics, the commercials that pop through. If you can make out what they're saying, it's a 50-50 shot. I can tie it to the location of where we are, a person in history we're talking about, or even something going on with one of us.
That's cool.
Most of it's going to be BS, I'll be honest. So it's, again, what you hear in real time, it is what it is. But again, if you hear specific numbers, they usually mean something. Names usually mean something. So again, it just depends on what we're listening to. I have 2 of these. This one's going to record the entire session. So the cool thing about this is that, I'm sorry, I lost your name. Kat. So Kat, as she's listening to this, she can play with the volume all night long, but your recording tomorrow morning is going to stay nice and steady. So you can play with the volume back and forth. You're also going to have an earbud in. So you're going to be the only one that can hear it in real time. So I'm going to be relying on you to be able to recite back to me what you're capturing.
I love it, Kat.
So,
All right, Kat. That's a cool job you got right there.
It's a hard job.
That's her job, though. I like it.
It's hard.
She's totally into this stuff, so I love
So,
it.
set of earbuds for you. I do not want them back.
No offense.
Earwax is gross. So take that for what it is.
They're all yours.
The jack to plug it in is right there on my fingers.
Can I plug it in now?
Yeah, I can get it ready.
I love that.
So great.
So, second one. I forgot your name too, buddy. Gabe, you're going to get my second one because you seemed you're pretty excited about this. So, the volume for that is right above the numbers. It's the wheel, not the button. So make sure not to hit your button because you'll mess up the recording. Yours is not recording, so we're going to have to rely on you and what you're hearing. Yeah. So there's a set of earbuds for you. Again, I don't want them back. Mom, if you want to help, there's a jack to plug it in right there where my finger is.
Yeah. That's sweet. I love that. I've watched these shows in a house, and they try to slow it down. Listen to what the spirits are saying. It's pretty cool. I'm sorry.
Each time you hear something that is interesting,
Wait, I'm
Stella.
sorry.
Where's the volume?
The volume is right above the numbers. It's the wheel. No, it is the
the
wheel.
number.
I got it.
Got it?
Wait, so don't press it. She's listening to the
No, it's already set up for you.
Yeah, you'll screw it all up.
If you hear anything,
All right.
It'll be your fault.
Next pair of box. So this one works completely different. So most people will keep just one earbud in, just like Kat is doing it. Okay, just so you know. Because that way you can hear me too. This one is going to give us words from time to time in the center of the screen. You guys probably have seen the shows where they have the ovulus and it gives them a word and reads it for them. It's pretty much the same principle. It's going to save all the words to a list with timestamps. So if something pops up that's relevant, obviously I'll be able to relate that to the recordings that we're doing elsewhere to see if anything else occurred around that area. The last tour I did had 91 terms. That's a lot. Here's what I'm going to tell you about the list. The list is 80% BS. It doesn't mean anything. So it's meant to be a game and a hoax. So really what we're looking for, this is differently. So again, 80% of it isn't going to mean anything. So it's up to us to be able to determine what the words are that are going to be relevant to our location. You're going to get the full list back tomorrow. If it is relevant, I'll tell you why and verify it with the link so you can read it for yourself. So with that, Elise.
Woo!
So there you go.
Do you remember what you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Read
good.
the words. And I don't want to see every word that pops up. I will come to you when I want to see the list. That way I'm not being interrupted 100 times or 91 times.
So what does it say?
What does it say? George Washington's here?
Yeah.
All right, the two of you are going to work together.
Oh God.
Okay.
This last spirit box works exactly just like the red ones with the earbuds. However, it has an open air speaker. It doesn't have an earbud, nor does it record. I normally put this with two people so that way they can verify each other. So they're going to be listening in on the same spirit box. Yeah, you got this.
You guys really handle that.
So there's one button to worry about. It's the volume. It's on the side of the ball speaker where my finger is. You'll hold it down. Obviously, when I'm talking, you keep it down. And then you obviously hold it up for a few seconds to get some volume out.
The radio stuff that's playing right now, where is that coming from?
The radio stations.
Oh. So it's like, it's just, where's the radio station?
Where are the radio
Like in the air? Like in, I don't know.
Think of it's a normal radio. It's just going through the stations really, really fast. That's how you have to think of it. All right, you guys have seen these on television, right? These are EMF readers. So electromagnetic fields is what this is going to measure. This one is the one you commonly see on TV, cell phones, wiring, buildings, things like that. Will make this guy go off. I use this one to try to debunk things ahead of time to see if it's actually paranormal or not. It only goes up to 25 milligauss. I know that that's scientific talk, but I keep an eye on where the colors are matching up at. But this is one of the first deterrents that I actually look into so that way I can see what's actually going on. I was going to go to you. You don't really have to do anything besides let me know when it lights up.
It's lighting up right now.
It has one dot. That means it's on.
Oh, there's like more dots?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
All you have to do is when it lights up, let them know.
That's it. Okay. And I'll be keeping an eye on it anyway.
What are you doing?
It's like,
Here you go, it's lit up.
The last tool we have. This has three different functions. So I'm pairing this up with you on purpose because of the camera that he has. The first thing that it has is it has the same device built into it. So the EMF meter are the big numbers. Anything above 2.5 is her second green dot. Anything above that, I want to know what's going on. So that way we can see if it's man-made. 2.5.
Okay.
The bottom number is the ambient temperature. So it's telling us what our temperature is outside. I can't even say warm or cold. But if he finds a cold spot, you and I can debunk it pretty quickly.
Okay.
The last thing it has is it has a REM pod built into it, meaning it can detect motion, kind of like the lasers. However, this is a bigger indicator. If something gets close to this, it will go off. So again, the closer it gets, the higher the pitch is going to go, and we'll talk more about the colors in the front at our first stop. So for now, just focus on the red numbers that are on the screen, and I'll show you more about the motion sensor later. Of course, I put it on hold, which I didn't want to do, so I have to reset it.
So I don't have to press anything.
Nope.
Just look at the screen.
That's it.
Okay.
Everybody has one job.
Thank you.
There's no earbuds.
That's a lot. Well, I'll be honest. Kids and teenagers have much more fun with the spirit boxes because they're not always paying attention to the history. So that way it gives them something to do.
nice cat.
So let's talk about why we started here before we really get rolling. So we definitely want to keep that turned down. So there are going to be certain things, like when I'm talking about history, I'm going to always ask you to turn down the spirit box and make sure that your REM pod is turned off, just so I'm not distracted 1,000 times. So, Big John's. This place used to be Big John's. It's renovated now. So the story here is pretty simple. It was owned by a football player. His name was Big John Kennedy. He played for the 1947 New York Giants. This was his ball. One of the stories here goes like this. He used to sit in the back of the bar and tell the bartender if the cadets coming over from the Citadel if they were old enough to drink. One night, two guys come in, not old enough to drink. So there's the bartender, throw them out. Those two gentlemen come back the next night and try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on, gets up, and just starts beating them up. Just beating the heck out of them, pounding them into the floor. A couple of gunshots go off, and John gets hit in the neck. The bullet lands in the wall. John gets up after being shot. He goes back to the bartender. He tells him to get him another beer, get the two guys on the floor in ambulance. So, the irony of the story is that nobody died here, right? So John got hit in the neck and got up. They say that the bullet hole in the front of the building is allegedly still here. I haven't checked on it since renovations because, like I told you guys, I don't drink, so I don't go in. But I will tell you that some of my guests that sit in the front of the bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, or headache. You have to remember, this is my normal starting point, so my folks would normally go there for a bite to eat. So, this is your heated warning. Fingers crossed, we're going to be dealing with some paranormal activity. If anybody feels headache, nausea, dizziness, I need to know immediately. to move the whole group to get that person to safety. So it's not here to scare you, but that's probably the scariest thing I will probably tell you all night long because it deals with your own health. So, segue story. Let's not think about our own health anymore. If you've taken any kind of Charleston history tour, you know that we had a big earthquake here in 1886. This is also allegedly where the first death occurred from that earthquake. The mantle that you see on the side of the building here, the white piece, also wraps around the front. A piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head, and killed him. They say you could see his ghost in the northeast patient. I say allegedly a lot with that story because I don't have any proof. Just a great segue, so like moms on my tour don't worry about their kids getting sick on the tour. So, that was supposed to be a joke, everybody. So, alright. You guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yes.
Alright, let's do this. We're going to go this way.
I haven't seen anybody yet.
Where's my partner? I'm here.
Oh, you're both listening. That's interesting. So that should be a fun time.
It's lighting up. Look.
All right. So first and foremost, I want to kind of there are going to be some quiet areas based on our location. This is one of them because we are next to horses. The horses can hear us. We don't want to upset them. They will kick the wall and scare the bejesus out of all of us. That's a metal wall that they will kick. Trust me, I've experienced it. Do you have a word that you need to show me, Elise?
It says against me, but it says, wait.
It's a Nana.
Okay.
Nana against me.
Banana against me. That's a mean banana. So, sorry, it was Benjamin. Trying to make this fun for you guys. Chuckle a little bit. Alright, so this is a space where I get to work with you guys a little bit more on your devices. The history here is super short, but it's a great explanation for this. So this is the big red barn where we keep horses, as I just explained, for your paradrives. So a couple of rules here. Obviously, it's a quiet area, so the spirit box that the two of you have, I ask that you keep it audible to the two of you only. The horses also don't like white noise, and definitely no lasers on the barn. So certain places, going back to lasers, those lasers can set off car alarms. I've seen it. I don't like to run with 10 people. I'm usually the last one. So be very careful on where you put those lasers. So the history here is super simple. It's a one-liner. This is the same red barn where we kept horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. So 1860s to 1920s, roughly. Let's talk about spirit boxes. There's 4 of them in play tonight. Spirit boxes, this is not television. This is not, is somebody here? Like everybody wants to ask. Because if somebody says no, that means somebody's here. Right? They answered you. We're going to go after very specific questions all night long. Certain spaces I will give you questions without answers, but this one, I want you to get used to listening to your spirit boxes. You're going to ask questions that are simple, that you know the answers to, like what color is the big red barn if somebody's here? Obviously, we're looking, because Elise has a word list, and listening for the color red. However, the color red might not be in a DJ or song lyric, and ready for that vocabulary out of those spirit boxes. But fire truck, blood, heart, those 3 things are specifically red. I would take that as an acceptable answer, a direct answer, as what color is the big red barn? Blood. That makes sense to me. Most of the night I'm going to require 2 pieces of something happening to kind of verify what's actually happening that's not a direct answer. For example, Elise has the word art on her, she doesn't right now, but I'm giving you the example. The word art is on her word list, and the 2 of you hear the number 40. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. You see how we first thought of art as paint and something along those lines where I have to put the clues together? Most of the stories tonight are going to have multiple people with the same names. So lots of Georges, Charles, Elizas. Think of the 17 and 1800s. That's what we're going to be dealing with tonight. This is a very easy place. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. With the spirit boxes, this is where I want you to get used to listening to them so I can show the cameras a little bit more tactics with their devices. And then I have to show Rachel how to use that REM pod. So again, we're going to spend about 5 minutes here, and then we're going to move on instead of talking about football players and ponies. Every story I tell you tonight, I will slow down on certain key words. Over there, I slowed down on 1947, New York, Giants, and anything relatable to a bar. Those are your key things that you're listening for. over there. Over here, it's still relatively close. It's obviously delivery, milk, eggs, anything relatable to the grocery store. So again, with those spear boxes, we're looking for clues. It's not always going to be a item right here, it's going to be certain little tidbits that we can pick up on. So, spear boxes spread out. Do not move your vehicles at all. I'm going to keep the camera folks here with me. Rachel, if you want to stick around too, you can, so that way I can get to you pretty quickly, so that way we can go deep dive into some history. The spirit boxes, scram, go find some words to listen to, ask some questions, see who's here, get names and specifics.
So
It's broken.
the spirit box, it's stuck on one station.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything.
Did you hit the button?
No.
Because it's
Don't
not
think
recording
so.
either. Now you should be recording.
Okay.
All right.
You can't hear me.
So your volume, yep, your volume is right here. It's a wheel. Do you hear it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so find the wheel. So that way you can actually, there you go. He's got it.
Okay, so should he ask things?
He can
and
ask
talk?
things. I mean, those two
Okay,
can
so
actually
go
work
ask
together
things.
to see if their spirit boxes work together.
Okay, you two go ask some questions.
All right. Cameras. Let's work with yours first. So go ahead and point both your lasers on the ground for me. Perfect. Like I normally look for 3 to 5 feet away. So really what you want to do is you want to point it down because I already know what the dots and squares look like. Yes, you want to go through it because I'm looking for something here, not down on the ground. So even if you want to go a little bit higher, there you go. Just be comfortable with it. You don't have to arch or whatever. Just wherever you're comfortable. Make a little laser show. The slower the two of you move, the better. We're still not recording yet with yours just because the files are giant. So I wait until the last story or the next story is over, and then I say, let's go ahead and get your video recording. That's when you're going to use this area. One last thing is when we're too close, you see my hand reach out, you can turn off the short range light and the long range is still working for you. So again, that's up to you. It's just the red button at the top. This is Velcroed on. It's not going to fall off. So feel free to, I mean, again, don't be afraid of it. It's meant for some tough handling. But yeah, just get used to how those things work and what they actually look like. You don't have to keep them on the whole time because again, we're only going to be out for like 4 or 5 minutes in this case. Thermal imaging.
Yep.
This is one of my favorite things. So I had to learn a lot about thermodynamics in order to be able to teach this to you guys. So point your camera at the wall for me. Let's watch what happens. See how the wall kind of goes red?
Yep.
Keep it there. Now the wall should be blue. You're
Because
gonna
your
right.
hand is warmer.
Right. So with that, I'm going to, you're going to try to keep a person in view just because it helps give us that array of color so I can see the colder spots moving around. The other thing you're going to try to do is keep the sky out. There's no surface on the sky. So that blue dot is automatically going to default up there trying to measure something and giving us like the colder areas. Some spaces it's going to be impossible to keep the sky out, and I understand that. I'm still looking for those blue and black blobs to kind of move on their own, take shape of a person, move like an orb, so forth and so on. But those are your two things: a person in, the sky out. So again, with this space, as I go through this with the 5 minutes, this place has metal, asphalt, wood, foliage, all kinds of things. So that way you get to kind of see how things fluctuate with the camera. So again, that's really all else I have to show you. This is not always an in-the-moment thing either, but I always upload it to YouTube so you guys can watch it however you want to. And yours is recording. So again, it's recording right now. So
23 minutes.
So when it's not recording, like when I say let's go ahead and stop your video, you're going to hit the red square.
Yep.
It'll turn to a circle and you can relax and kind of give the camera a break. Both cameras, by the way, Angie, so both cameras, I will tell you two things. People do not like to be filmed as they sit here filming the bike taxi.
Oh, yeah.
And people do not like their cars to be filmed. So if somebody's going to their vehicle, you're just going to be acting casual. You can actually just kind of drop yours and film the ground. And then with yours, you're just going to basically be casually holding a cell phone. So kind of take that for what it's worth. Again, people don't know what we're doing out here. I mean, they should. I've been doing this for 2.5 years, but again, it is what it is. You know, tourists don't like their cars being filmed, and I wouldn't either. REM pod. Let's talk about that guy. So, have you gotten any fluctuation on the big numbers, by the way?
No.
Okay, which is weird. The word hold isn't on your screen either? Good. All right, so pull up your antenna, which is right there on the left. Not very long.
Music.
So flip the device around.
Oh, Kabir
There's a little flap right there. Yep, and it is flap right back down on you. There's two little white buttons on it. The one closest to the edge is the one you want. So flick it all the way in the place. Flip the device around so you can see the front, and it's gonna go off because you just created an EMF field around here, but we want to reset it all the time just because your movements are gonna make it.
is Gabe.
So there's 4 buttons along this right
Okay.
side.
Wait, just said hearing.
Thumb should be at the bottom button at all times. So that way you can kind of reset it when it starts going off. So kind of shake the device a little bit. See how it's going off with your movements?
Yes.
If it stays on like that, reset it. Perfect. You got it. So
Okay.
even when you're walking, I usually give this to females because you walk more graceful.
Oh, okay. I'll try. I'll try my best.
But and it's still going to go off.
Okay.
But I also use this as kind of a call and answer. Notice if there was like a bluish and a purple in the middle.
Okay.
If I'm touching it, it's red. I try to use the blue and purple, like, hey, if somebody's here, make this box go to blue. So that way
We
it's a
heard
specific
something
call and answer.
on Gabe say horses. Hidden. And his says
Again,
horses.
this is kind of working both ways.
Okay.
So as we walk to the next space, get used to how it moves with you,
Okay.
and then I'll tell you to shut it off when it's story time again.
Okay. And still just look for these numbers. You still
yeah.
want the number if it's more
They
than
work
2.5.
independently,
Okay.
so you can have a reading here and not here, and vice versa.
Okay.
2 different types of EMF fields.
All right. Cool. Thanks.
All right.
Gabe heard the word horses.
Did he?
Heard the word horses?
Yeah,
Nice.
he heard it.
Remind me to write that down. I got to pull out my little notebook. All right. Are we hearing anything on these spirit boxes?
We heard blood and fire earlier.
Blood and fire. Nice.
This is lighting up.
Oh yeah. This is a common area for that to light up, and there's nothing underneath this to make it go off. So again, do you have a smartwatch on or anything on your wrist? Oh, okay. Perfect. Let's go learn some real history. I got to write down those terms because Gabe also heard horses. So let me tell you about that fire and blood.
This is literally the radio station. He's been calling on my condo. And it's like, you look at the music. He's got music. He's switching through radio stations. Is that what it's supposed to do? Yep. But that's on the back. We can contact the base from that.
Well, it goes supposedly can contact you. Okay. So the radio will be.
Oh.
They're not guided. They're not
Oh, man, you were the one who did it. I just sat there. I was going to close it out. What is your thing? Would that not be possible that you can do it?
You had, what was the highest that you saw over there?
Over where?
Over when we were by the big red barn. To the yellow?
Middle yellow.
Okay, so
My
50.
color skin.
Is that a race joke?
But I'm Asian, so it's fine. No, everyone else that.
I'm Ukrainian. Are we going to talk about the war that's going on overseas? No.
But that's like different. I have Ukrainian.
All right, so I'm excited because you guys are already hearing things. I don't have to go through a retrain. That's always fun. And yes, welcome to another beautiful site of Charleston. An empty parking lot with a dumpster in it. So this place used to be the Pinckney Mansion site. Here's what I'm going to tell you, Spirit Box folks, because there's 4 of you. Again, I'm not going to give you questions like what color is the big red barn and what color is George Washington's white horse, right? You already know the answers to those questions. You're going to get the answers from the story from your Spirit Boxes. And from what I can already tell, like you guys heard blood already, right, on the Spirit Box, and you also heard fire. Big John's actually caught fire back in 2014, so it doesn't surprise me to hear that term over there. But blood is obviously an answer to what color is the barn, and Gabe heard horses already. Usually the next question people go after is what's inside the barn. So he got directly horses, so nice job, man. Too bad yours isn't recording. We could all verify it tomorrow. So, where are we? The Pinckney Mansion site. This home used to be Eliza and Charles Pinckney. This is where they lived. So who the heck were these people? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. If you lost track, that was 3 different Charleses. The father, the son, and the nephew. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution. I don't like talking about politics, and you guys are all on vacation, so let's move on, right? I just have to point it out because obviously the son was raised here. It's a pretty big deal for us in South Carolina. But Eliza married Charles at a young age, according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from. So kind of keep that in mind when you're asking how old she was when she got married. The reason I bring it up is because Charles was over double her age when they got married. So kind of put that in the back of your mind. It sounds gross now, but when you hear the real numbers, it's not so bad. But she married him because her father over in England thought he was dying, and she wanted to see all of his kids one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so she stayed put. This is 1744. There's no such thing as citizenship or green cards. Like, she married this guy out of love, even after he died, because remember, he's over double her age when they married. She remained a widow for a very long time, so this was a true love story. But anyway, she stayed put, Dad got better, and he starts sending her gifts to this space. Now, the way this place was laid out was the mansion was in the front facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden was right where we're standing, going all the way across, and then the servant and slave quarters were in the back of the space. So one of the things that the father sent over from England was the seeds of indigo. So indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. That's what we use it for. So again, you guys have been in town for at least a few hours. I guarantee you've seen the word indigo somewhere in Charleston. And it all started right where you're standing. Now, she didn't know how to keep it cultivated in our not so warm temperatures in the winter, so she had to learn from her slaves how to keep it going. Once she figured out how to keep it going all year round, they moved it to a plantation. She calls her dad, not really because it's 1744, and she says, hey, I need, like, the rice plantations are going downhill. We can make a killing with this indigo. Can you give me some contacts to sell it? Now we have an international businesswoman during colonial times, which is something absolutely unheard of. So that's all the boring stuff about Eliza. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are all here, right? We want to learn about her. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, back-to-back, same year. So his first wife, Eliza, dies, and he marries this Eliza 6 months later. So they both, ironically, have a maiden name, meaning the name they had before they were married, kids, that starts with the letter L. So find out which Eliza we're dealing with. So far we have 3 Charleses and 2 Elizas. Obviously the mansion's not here anymore. Ask what happened to it. You're not going to ask me, you're going to ask your spirit boxes. So I appreciate the interactive part, but you can also find out what year that happened, and hopefully we get an answer. Eliza's death, you can ask anything you want to about Eliza's death. Hey Eliza, how old were you when you died? What did you die from? Where are you buried? And what U.S. president was a pallbearer at your funeral? So again, notice these are not yes or no questions. The children, I told you there's at least one. Yes, there are more. I'm not going to tell you how many. You're going to ask how many, and hopefully get some names of her kids. So I will ask that you don't poke the bear with the children. There's a tragedy among those kids that if we talk and poke the bear too much, all activity will stop, including the EMF readings that we're getting. Rachel, are you getting anything, by the way?
Not now, no.
What did you have something coming in?
I had, it went up to 0.4 was
Okay.
the most fluctuation I had.
Wow, okay. Surprising. Because this is a hotbed for EMF. I think that about covers the questions you can ask. If you go rogue and ask your own questions, by all means, just let me know if you get a direct answer and what the question was, so I can put it in your analysis. This is a space that has vehicles in it, so cameras, you know your rules. You do not go in between vehicles. We do not lean on vehicles. If somebody's going to their car, you just simply go the other way out of respect for that person. So great. A lot of the vehicles in here are from employees that are just going to come over here and take a break. So we don't want to interrupt them in any way, shape, or form. But we're going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes in this space, depending on how much activity you find. We're definitely going to get your video recording. So go ahead and press down on that orange button on the top pretty hard. It's a hard press. Bill's already recording, Rob, so you're good to go. And everybody else has stuff going on. So yeah, everybody spread out. Let's do this. I want to see your word list real quick. So let me take a look. See if we got anything going on. Because again, I hold stuff back on purpose.
Let's ask questions.
Like what? You ask.
Eliza, how old were you when you got married? Eliza, what was your maiden name? Did you have any kids? What were their names? Eliza, how old was your husband when you married him?
I put in the specific things of the story on purpose. I put it in so that they can give it to us gradually. So we kind of see how that works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there's over 9,200 words.
What did
That's
he
how
do
I'm
for a
like,
living?
Yeah, 80% of this is going to
Eliza, are you
Let's get some
here?
answers. We know which questions we're going to ask. So that's, you're literally talking
Is
about
anybody? Who? Sorrente? What does that mean?
You might need to walk around the page just to find the good hot spot.
It's a stereotype.
Just watch the vehicles.
Gabe heard the word Sorrente.
What's Sorrente?
I don't know.
Sorrente.
Okay, Gabe, let's go ask about the
What happened to your house?
What happened to the mansion? He said what mansion? No.
You're not lying?
What did you say?
He said what mansion?
Butt mention?
No, what mansion?
What mention?
Yeah, mansion.
Your house. Your house, Eliza. What happened to your house? What happened to the kids who are living here? What happened to the kids, Eliza?
Gabe got another word. Say what mention?
But we asked, like, what happened to the mansion, and it said what mansion?
It said what mansion?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty specific.
Yeah. Very specific. Yeah, I'm kidding.
It just, I asked what happened, and it just said shock.
Shot?
Shock. S-H-O-C-K.
Oh, you got the word list. I don't need to write that down. Promise.
Oh,
Promise.
2.3. It jumped up at 2.3 and then went back down to 0.
That's what you look for.
How many children do you have?
You getting anything out of that? You getting anything out of this?
Or Lauren? I don't know that. Where are the kids, Eliza?
What should I ask after what happened to the mansion? I forgot again.
Anything about the kids? Oh, 6.0. I got a 6.0, then 0.5, and then it's done. Whoa. Okay.
Mom.
What happened to the kids, Eliza? Where are they?
Ice.
Did they freeze? My kids freeze?
You are on.
A battle of 72. Whoa! What was me?
No, that was you.
That was
That
me.
was you.
Who knows me?
Gabe, what do you got now?
You got
It's
a,
a battle of 72.
and you got a spike at 6 or something like this?
Yeah, mine it jumped up to 6, then went down to 2.5, and then down to 0 really quickly.
Okay, so anything above 6 at this point is where I want to, like, that's what you'll report back.
Okay,
So I
above
will,
6?
like,
Okay.
normally in this space, on an average, I see anywhere between 10 to 20 milligauss come through.
Wow.
I have seen it go as high as 148. So what does that mean in relation to, like, what does that mean? Think of your microwave on high power, turned on. It's heating up a plate of food. That usually goes to like 145 to 165.
Okay.
With you standing next to it, door shut. So 148 in a different space where there's no wiring. Yeah, and that's been one.
Okay, yeah, let's talk to the ghost. Eliza, how old are your kids?
I have seen it go higher than that.
1,759.
What?
1,759.
Tell them.
Okay, so when it jumps and then goes back to 0 so quickly, what is that?
That's why they call it ghost hunting. They're not going to stand still for you.
Okay.
So it's not like they're going to make it go on. It's going to stop at 6.8. It's going to fluctuate. So whatever the realm is that we're
1759.
dealing with,
what?
it's
What is
slowly
it?
all over.
1,759.
Look excited. What do we got?
February or January, like 20 something.
22nd.
February,
What was
January
it?
22nd.
1,759.
January, February doesn't mean anything. It's the 22nd. So 22nd.
Let's walk around. Let's see what else we can get.
Hold on, you got more.
You got more?
You heard 1,759.
22 is a common number. That's
1,700.
a lot. But again, 22 very common. So you guys are getting spot on.
Yes.
So nice job.
1,759.
1759. Damn, that's close. So, sorry for cursing. So, the husband died in 1750.
That doesn't match.
I know, but it is so close.
It is.
It is so close.
But you think they know the right date.
I know.
You said the husband died in 1758.
Oh, yeah, it's that close.
And what did you say?
Maybe
1759. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't die. He didn't die
That's the
though.
thing. Maybe you just gave information that wasn't that they had.
That changed history.
No!
What is that?
This is Eliza.
I'm not seeing anyone though.
Oh, you guys got Eliza.
We'll see if the rest of her name comes up. So, that's pretty awesome.
Ask her for a maiden name.
There you go.
Eliza, what's your maiden name?
Let's see now. Yeah, let's see what pops up now.
Wait, stand in one spot. So,
He is having the fun
so she can
duels.
talk. So she doesn't have to follow us around.
Yeah, we're getting good stuff. She got Eliza on her thing there. I'm not getting that much though with mine.
You just said B.
Beat.
Beat it.
Like, get
Yeah,
out
like
here.
leave now.
Get out of here.
Michael Jackson fan.
Any other readings?
She's too young for Michael Jackson.
That's part of the 80%. Dave, you doing all right?
Eliza, what's your maiden name?
Are you guys hearing anything? Because everybody else is getting a little.
No, it's really that. We're failing you.
Seven. That was actually so cool. That was so cool. Eliza, what's your maiden name?
Find a different question.
I haven't gotten an answer.
Eliza, what kind of food do you like?
Is this something about like mansion or something?
Mansion?
Yeah, say something about
Eliza, did you like your mansion?
You're trying to ask questions that are not yes or no.
you know,
Oh.
no, it's not yes or no.
What did you like to do in your house,
Eliza,
Liza?
what did you like to do in your house?
Anything else coming up on you? No? You got me another answer. Still on B? Alright. I'm going to check in one more time with Mom, and then we're going to regroup in the back.
Oh. Can Eliza talk to all these people at the same time?
Eliza, what kind of food did you like to eat?
This is $73,000.
Is that what it says?
Maybe that's the price of her house. Well, I know, like,
I would mention that. Who knows?
No. Well, maybe,
$73,000?
that was a long time ago, so mansions were more age. This is age. Oh, that might mean she aged in her house.
Okay, so that's blue. Okay, so if I reset it, it goes back and it goes
I like this.
Ah.
I'm gonna get you one for Christmas.
Dad, Mom believes in ghosts now.
Maybe.
She told me she does now.
Okay.
I
So
asked
Gabe,
her-
what did you hear? $73,000?
$73,000. 73. All right, let's head to the back. So I'll get you guys the answers. Let's get you guys a lot going
I
on.
can't believe it actually said, it said age after, because I asked what she does in her house,
Go ahead and stop the video
and
to make sure you can
it
save it.
said age, so maybe she was saying that, like,
All right. Have everybody? Come on, you two. Back to story time. All right, so as I kind of go through this, I'll kind of give you the answers of what everybody's been finding, because you guys have a little bit of every piece of the answers, so they're kind of all over the place. So first and foremost, I'd like to show you guys what Eliza looked like. So this was a painting of her, obviously. Very prominent English woman wearing the signature blue for her indigo. So again, this is probably one of the best pictures known for her. The next piece I like to show you is where you're standing. This is the only picture we have of the mansion. The mansion caught fire in the Great Fire of 1861. So this is where you're standing right now. Now, what I will tell you is that this was almost 70 years after Eliza's death. So it was still in the Pinckney home. Nobody got injured. Nobody was hurt. Nobody died from the fire, at least from the mansion piece. But here's how it happened. So basically, some homeless folks were up the street at the Harris Teeter grocery store. It wasn't Harris Teeter back in 1861, as I'm sure you can imagine. But their fire got out of hand as they were trying to keep warm. The fire came down here, did this to the mansion, then literally went to the other side of the peninsula. This was a giant fire. We've had dozens and dozens of fires. Every tour guide is going to tell you about a specific one. You can actually stop your video if you like. That way you can be a little bit more. Some of the bricks that are here is probably mid to late 1800s, just based on the structure. All right, start with, anybody hear any names along the way? And do we have any names on the list?
Any names on the list?
I only have Eliza and Robert. Her names.
From Pinckney Mansion, okay. All right, so let's turn down your spirit boxes. This is another quiet area because we're next to a hotel. Again, it's a brief stop, so if you want to get some footage, Angie, you can. Just turn your camera on. We do catch orbs in here all the time. So this is Lodge Alley. Let me tell you about this place. It's a little weird. So when we crossed over that last crosswalk over there by High Cotton, that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. Charleston used to be called Charlestown Wall City. There's a big giant brick wall all the way around it. This is one of the very first streets we ever had. So I like to bring you down here because we're walking on original comics, right? So I'm going to talk about these bricks in just a moment. The reason why I ask for names is because people used to live here. These two buildings weren't here. Little tiny shotgun houses, meaning there was only 1 or 2 rooms in the whole house. So they were pretty small. Now, with that said, I have the list of names of people that lived here. So the names I commonly hear are Benjamin and John. Sounds like 2 pretty common names.
I got a name. Well, it says Guy, which could be a name, but
It could. I don't believe Guy is on the list, though.
Okay.
The list isn't very long. It's not like a big long census list or a phone book list, right? It's only 4 or 5 people lived here at a time. But Benjamin and John both lived here in 1801, which is, did it freeze up again? Or did your battery dial down?
Battery died, but it looks like it's right here. Is that what
No, that's not it. I'll have to swap it out. And I'll do that as we leave. But actually, I can do it while I'm talking. I'm pretty spooky. So Benjamin and John in 1801, I don't have any significant information about them other than them on the word list, and I hear those 2 names together every 6 to 7 weeks. It's kind of like I'm watching a movie that's 6 to 7 weeks long, and I'm walking in on them revealing their names to me, and that's it. Like, that's all I got. Every once in a while, a 3rd name will pop up, named Jane. That's not a very common name that we should be hearing on the radio these days, but that name will show up. That is a 3rd person that lived here in 1801. Again, not very often do I get that name. You can hang on to that for just a moment. So take that for what it's worth. Now, the bricks you're walking on, these are, we call them Belgian blocks, which means they're made straight from granite. Like, it's 100% granite that we're walking on. You guys that watch the TV shows, you've probably heard the term limestone when it comes to the paranormal, because limestone creates EMF fields and things like that and can stir things up. Anything that comes straight from the earth works the same way, like granite. Again, this granite was laid down in 1735, so that's a long time that it's been sitting here. It's already gone. Nice slow movements. But the crazy thing is that this granite is kind of like what I call the stone tape theory. The stone tape theory basically suggests that anything that's made straight from the earth can hang on to the consciousness of memories. Walking on bricks that are almost 300 years old. I mean, that's crazy. How much memories are here? So the fact that I keep hearing the same names over and over and over again. Now we're in like week 2 of the 6 to 7 week cycle because I do keep track of it. Was I expecting Benjamin and John's name tonight? I wasn't, but I'm always surprised. You just never know. Before people lived here, the Freemasons had their Masonic Lodge here, which is where it got its name from. So again, Lodge Alley, Masonic Lodge. I do get terms wrapped around the Freemasons from time to time, like Freemason, Mason, Brick, and even the word Illuminati has shown up a few times here. So take that for what it is. We shouldn't even be mentioning the Illuminati on the radio, but that word will pop up from time to time. Very interesting space, and again, we don't spend a lot of time here because it just kind of helps give you the layout of the land for the rest of the evening. The next place that we're going to go to is another alley, but I cannot take you all the way through it like what we're doing here. The reason being is because I got booted out of it. My groups have all the gizmos and gadgets and blinky lights, and it is considered residential at the other end of it. However, I still get enough spirit box activity. I had a little bit of motion that I couldn't detect, figure out from the thermal camera just the other night while just filming down the alley. So we could take that for what it's worth. We're going to get some footage looking down it as I tell you the story there. If you're into duels, that's where we're going to be talking about duels in Philadelphia Alley. After that, we're going to do a little bit of myths and legends based on what you guys are hearing and seeing on your spirit boxes, kind of give you a little bit of a break. Then we're going to dive into a female pirate. That story is crazy. So, I mean, if you're into pirates, I'm not. I had to be forced into pirates because when I got booted out of Philadelphia Alley, I had to reroute my tour, and I'll tell you why all the crazy stuff happened, why I keep going back. I didn't even believe the story when I first started going there. I'm like, great, I gotta talk about pirates because we're in Charleston. But now I have enough evidence to prove, she will pop in from time to time. So, this is a really cool space. As we walk through the rest of this, we're gonna continue filming. Stop your video the minute we walk out, because then we'll be in a neighborhood. We don't film in neighborhoods because we're just cutting through kind of thing. I'm literally taking you right on the edge of where we're allowed to go. And not a lot of tours come here, as you can see, but as we move further to that other corner with the alley and the church and the Powder Magazine, you're going to see other tours, and you're going to kind of see me pick our spots to stay out of their way. They tell stories, they move on. We're going to stop the next week, but you need to know what this is. So, why you guys really quiet down? I thought this was going to be a little bit of a rowdy group. You guys are like, oh, chill now. So, all right.
Listening to listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Again,
Much better or locked up.
great news. It might be the area.
Spooky.
Yeah.
Maybe a ghost.
Again, I ran this thing, the first night this did this last week where it kept locking up, I ran it the next morning, just around the house, walking around,
It's right
filming.
here. Isn't it nice? I thought someone's here.
Did it say no? Somebody's
No
here.
filming here.
But I tested it at home and it ran just fine.
Maybe it's the area, so we should go.
Listen,
It's
Alex.
spooky. I'm
Yes,
gonna die.
you take over, Alex.
The only people ask me how many golden executions I know as we walk down the film.
That is the same person. They're all circles.
Oh, Katie's having a blast. She's getting all the words.
Oh, he said it is. Oh, a ghost actually.
Go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this, meaning somebody's probably going to die. So they come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn. The doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots, which is what often happened in a duel. You didn't always kill somebody. You just needed the courage and bravery to show up to the fight. Ralph has his one shot, however, puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. Sorry, you're just in front of me. I'm not trying to get you. The doctor doesn't die. Instead, he's carried home to his house at 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. He's a doctor. He probably tried to kill himself through bloodletting or bleeding it out in some way, shape, or form. So, they say as you walk through the alley, you can actually hear the whistles from the doctor. So, with that, these people, you could probably stop the video at this point. Let's see what we have. with that, this place is always really, really quiet, day or night. And I'm sure you can notice, like, the lighting down there, if you're a picture taker, is probably one of the most picturesque places we have. It's absolutely gorgeous. There is a mansion at the end of it. New neighbor down there, that's the guy who lives on. So, here's what happened. At the end of this alley, the bricks are older because the alley didn't come all the way through to Cumberland Street all the time. So, those bricks at the end are sun-dried bricks from slave children, probably about Gabe's age. They had to turn those bricks every hour. And there is a full handprint and fingerprints in those bricks towards the edge. I used to show them off to show how far we've come in society. However, my group always wants to put a spirit box or an EMF meter or something near it. It's right outside the gentleman's dining room. So the day before Thanksgiving in 2020, I got caught. I'm not supposed to be down that far, so I haven't been back since. However, on our last story, I will tell you that the date of when I got caught and when I had to start telling the pirate story is relevant. It's almost like Karma said, you need to tell this story instead. So, there's a lot that goes on down there. Is there a question?
Patrick, this is Patrick.
I don't know.
That's Irish.
I do love this whole dueling story because we still get a lot of evidence. So for those of you that are listening to Spirit Boxes, I focus in on this 5 to 7 minute time span that we stay here because a lot comes out. The number 59, whistles. Oh, by the way, if you go down there on your own and you turn on your voice recorders to listen for the whistles, keep in mind all of us locals know the story. So anybody walking down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side is going to throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night on my way home to my garage. So after I'm done with my teams, like you guys, my garage is right there. So I always throw a whistle down the alley to mess with the other tours, and I keep going. If my daughter's on the tour, we race to see who's going to do it first. What she doesn't realize is that I can whistle while I'm talking. So I always like try to get her engaged in a conversation so I can do it first. It's just fun to do. But anyway, turn on your voice recorders when you guys go down there. I just can't take you down there because if we're going to investigate down there, we're just going to be in the other tours way. So again, we're only allowed to go halfway. So it's more fun just to tell the story out here. They can do what they need to do, and we still get our evidence because I guarantee you we're probably going to have something from this deep. So let's go learn about story time. Do we have any other words that showed up?
November, quiet, November, and explode.
I want to say that the duel actually took place in November, or that's the date of the doctor's death.
Oh.
So again, you guys will have all of those links to verify it if that's the case. I'm 99% positive that that's the date of his death is November. So if we have a number that shows up somewhere else, we'll be able to hopefully get the year on as well. So it's probably linking all together. Pretty awesome stuff. Nice job. Anybody heard anything else? You guys are like linked. I love it. So let's go learn some more.
Parker. Did they say anything about Parker?
What's her name?
I don't know. Dad, did they say anything about Parker? The name Parker? Success. Yorktown? You said Yorktown. I did. You did? Yorktown? Wait, does it actually like speak words into game? Give us the actual hear words. Do you hear words? Yeah. How else am I supposed to know? Or does it like come up on your screen? No. There's nothing on the screen. Oh, so you just hear it? No, you just hear it.
Courtyard and go straight to the cemetery to drop the body so they can go celebrate the winter quicker. So I like to point that out, but I am going to have you guys have a seat on the bench. Very popular tour area. You can stop your filming for now, kind of give it a rest.
But does it only curse female people? Yeah. No, you could look at it. You just can't touch it, but I touched it.
You get a chance to do lasers again here. She's like, yeah, I can finally get back to work. Alright, spirit boxes, do we have anything going on before I get started?
Yeah, I have some more things. It says retirement,
Okay.
Nancy,
Okay.
White,
Okay.
and Isabel.
Yeah, nothing. Got nothing on any of those. So we'll see what happens. Alright, dude, they're all in because the other tours like to cut through here and we just stay out of their way for a few minutes. So we're going to be talking about that building over there with the crosses on it. First off, those are not crosses, those are earthquake bolts. And just behind earthquake bolts is that if you have another earthquake like what we did in 1886, you can tighten those bolts up and it'll straighten the building back up after it's been rattled. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So the reason I point these ones out is because it's the same, because these are the original earthquake bolts that they put in, and it was the first set that they put in Charleston. The reason why is because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. This is the gunpowder magazine. It held gunpowder for 7 different wars, including the Civil War. So we talked about the Charlestown walls earlier. I brought that up on purpose so we can talk about it here. That street, basically everybody's right, that's where the wall existed. It went up past the powder magazine and it started going south behind me towards the battery. It's locked into the corners on purpose. If it gets attacked by pirates or Revolutionary warship from the water 3 blocks away, you're going to have a hard time getting through those walls that are 32 inches thick. It's protecting gunpowder. But we're going to pretend that that cannonball goes all the way through and blows up the gunpowder. There's sand in the roof that was built in the original early 1700s. So it would blow up in the air with the explosion and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. It's another great idea, it just doesn't work either. So, just like the earthquake bolts, both of them are a farce. But that sand is still there from the early 1700s because sand does not disintegrate. I bring up all the history of this building. First off, I find it fascinating, but our story actually begins in the middle of this building's construction. It took 10 years to make this building. That doesn't sound like our government, right? 10 years for a small building? But 1703 to 1713 is this building's construction era, but our story begins in 1708. A young lady moves here from Ireland. Her name is Anne Cormack. She's with her father and his mistress, so basically his girlfriend, for the younger crowd. You guys with me so far? The mistress is her mother. The 3 of them are running away from his wife. You got me over there, Linda? I see you looking up trying to follow it.
That's a lot.
It is. So, they moved here from Ireland. How mad was that wife, by the way? Just saying. You figured out what was going on. 3 of them moved to Georgetown. That's where they landed. Dad buys a plantation. Mom dies pretty quickly. So that means young Anne has to come down here to Charlestown and sell anything from the plantation to keep things afloat for Dad. This is why we're here. This is a familiar building. We don't have many buildings this old. So it's kind of like using a toy to try to, interact with a child ghost. It's the same principle. It's just something familiar. Now, Anne was kind of a hardcore badass when she was back home in Ireland. They say she actually killed one of her servants with a knife to the belly. So just kind of keep that mentality in the back of your head as we're going through her story. We're going to fast forward a little bit. 1713, the building's done. 1715, pirates are coming through town, and Anne is stoked. She falls in love pretty quickly. This guy's name is James Bonney. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They run away to Jamaica to get married. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. James Bonney is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that we all think he's going to be, even including her. He is a privateer, which means he's a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. So a few years later, she falls in love again. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. This is guy number 2. I will keep track for you. Don't worry, Mom, I'll keep it PG, because it does get a little hairy. So Calico Jack is the Captain Jack Sparrow that she wanted, and he has his own ship. So we're going to refer to John Rackham as Jack, the whole story. Anne wants to be part of the ship, but females curse pirate ships. You can't put a girl on the crew. Everybody will go nuts because the ship is cursed. So he makes a deal with her. You dress like a guy and hide your gender. You can would be a female in my quarters, and you can be part of the crew. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. So she's like, whatever, I'm a pirate, let's go. Let's put 2 and 2 together. She's a female in his quarters. She's gonna get pregnant, right? So can't have a pregnant guy on the crew. It's not gonna work out. Somebody's gonna figure out that she's a girl. He drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby. These are friends of mine. They'll help you. You can come back and we'll figure it out from there. She has the baby, but returns with no baby. We have no idea what happened to this child. She's also dressed like a girl. She doesn't care anymore about hiding her gender. This makes Jack pretty mad. He just captured another pirate crew, and Anne's gonna go flirting with that captured pirate crew, because that's what Anne does. Guy number 3. The guy she's flirting with turns out to be a female dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females dressed like men trying to be pirates on the same ship, which is something uncanny. Now, this young lady's name is Mary Reed. She convinces Mary to become part of the crew, and the 2 of them become friends or possibly lovers. Nobody knows for sure. Now, the British find out where they are, and they send their entire fleet of ships to come take down 1 pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1-bullet muskets. They're obviously going to get taken. The British are going to arrest them. As they're being arrested, Anne looks at Jack and she says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being down or going down like a dog." So the word dog is obviously a key word here. The judge wants to see the 2 men that fought back by themselves against his fleet. He already tried and hung Calico Jack and the men that wouldn't come up. So Anne and Mary go in front. They reveal their genders, trying to save themselves. The judge doesn't care. By the way, the judge's name is Nicholas as well, so if you guys hear my name, it's not me, it's the judge. But he doesn't care that they're still pirates. He's still going to hang them. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they said, meaning they're both claiming to be pregnant. You cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. They knew what they were doing. He says, "Fine, we'll delay your hanging till after the pregnancy." Sends him to jail. Dad is still here in Charlestown with all of his Irish money. He bills her out, brings her back home. She remarries. That's guy number 4. Husband number 2 has 4 children and dies at the age of 84. That's all we know. Mary Reed died in a Jamaican jail a year later, 1721, from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. You can use your imagination. I'm sure it was scurvious, bumpy, and gross, and oozy, and whatever other gross thing you want to come up with. Unfortunately, I have to think about it 6 nights a week. So, a couple of things here. You all know how to use your instruments. I'm not going to give you any questions here. I did leave 2 things out on purpose because this story has a lot of holes. The name of Calico Jack's ship you can ask about, and the name of Anne Bonny's parents. Those are things that I can prove for certain. Anything else you want to ask your spirit boxes is all fair game. For those of you with cameras and want to film the front of the powder magazine, you can do that. You will exit the lot through the center. You'll see the only space left that way to do that. Make a left and go up to the gates if you'd like. The only thing I ask is that you do not interrupt other tours. If another tour is out there telling their story, wait for it to be over. Do not film the tour group that's there. And just wait. You can point your lasers in the front lawn, keep them in the front lawn. If you go any higher, you're going to be in somebody's apartment pointing on their living room screen and trying to watch the big game. So kind of keep that in mind. Spirit boxes, definitely listen in. Let's see what we capture. As far as EMF, we don't get a whole lot here. This is not the Pinckney Mansion. If you get motion, I'm stoked. We're going to verify that it's your motion. You get any EMF readings. You will get readings as you get closer to those bushes in the front, just because of the parking meters and the 2 telephone poles on the side. Just kind of keep that in mind. Again, we have 1 vehicle in here. We will end on that wall. I will tell you one last bit before we move on, before I send you guys out. I told you guys that people have passed out on my tours in the past, and I'd like to tell it here. Here's what happened. Back in September, I'm going to bring my tour back here. I'm about to tell the whole Anne Bonny bit, and the kid next to me goes white as a ghost, pun intended, and I pick him up by his armpit and take him over to the wall to sit him down. I send his boyfriend over to go get a bottle of water from the garage across the street. He comes back with the water. He's feeling better. I then tell the story that I just told you. Send everybody out to have fun with their gadgets. They pull me aside and say, "Nick, we need to tell you something." "What's up, guys?" "We are 2 transgender males." Meaning I had 2 females dressed as males on my tour. Just like Anne and Mary.
Interesting.
It made complete sense to them. Mind you, they didn't know the story yet. And when I say that this kid was white as a ghost, he was white as a ghost. Like, as soon as we walked in.
So before you told the story or after?
Before they told the story. This kid passed out.
Wow.
So, we didn't have to call paramedics that time. Which was a good night, but take that for what it's worth. When I have things like this, and they were totally fine with me, retelling this part of the story to show like paranormal activity does occur here. However, it's not every single night, so hopefully we capture something tonight. Let's see what we got going on. Everybody spread out. I'm gonna go chill on the wall and wait for you guys to come back. I think so. You kept looking up at me. I know.
fluctuating a little bit to like 2.5 or so, but just around this head, like you said. Yeah, but not much. Like here's like 0.4.
And I've used that call and answer piece, like with that blue and purple in here, and I've gotten direct response. Now, the camera that Ross using, sorry if I'm mispronouncing.
No, it's right.
Like that thing, so the spirit box that he had, one night I had a group of 2. So the person that was using, I usually just use that camera and that spirit box in a small group, so that way they get a lot of data. They're pointing at me and the person using that, and a white film goes over the person using that, and then the spirit box shut off.
Wow.
We walked, and it was actually up in that corner. So once we moved out of that corner, it turned right back on. Now it takes like 4 button clicks to make that thing start recording. It was in record mode and sweeping. So again, all of those things went right back to where it was supposed to. It was the weirdest thing, and it only happened the one time. Because I like tested the battery, and you know.
Do you get that a lot though, where some of your devices will just shut off?
I've had certain things be drained when I use a regular digital camera because it's older tech. Those drain pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I've had like things die.
Happens on TV a lot.
Yeah, that's what they say. Things.
It just depends. But like those high-tech cameras that they're using, those should not be draining. I mean, that thing is. That's why I keep battery packs on the back of all the cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, I have. I mean, obviously that thing is keeping the camera,
Mm-hmm.
but if I have to, I can unplug it and we can charge the phone if it got drained, because that's not being charged. So, but everything like goes on chargers as soon as I get home, and it doesn't come off until I leave.
You heard anything?
And I swap out
You heard the word
batteries,
pirate?
I make sure everything is intact for when we start. What do we got?
It said cruise. It said cruise.
Cruise?
Yeah, cruise.
I'm gonna write it down and look it up.
You heard the word cruise.
Cruise? Well, that's a boat term if I ever heard one.
Oh, did they have cruises at the time?
They would have been cruising over the waters.
Did you hear Disney cruise?
I know, right?
How do you think Disney existed back then?
No,
It did.
Huh?
That was me.
I heard a beep.
Yeah.
That was
Oh.
Yeah, I got too close to you.
Oh, that's orange.
Nice. Did it go back to it after you reset it?
The first time it did, and the second time it did.
Are you normally a group of 5? Because I see 5 people here.
What?
Not just kidding.
Oh my god. I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're really not there.
Yeah.
Hey, Gabe, you want to go in front? In front of the building?
Yeah, what? I could.
Yeah, let's go there.
What questions should I ask?
Well, what did you say? Name of the boat?
Well, who do I ask that to?
Hey. Hey, can you please tell me the name of the boat
What is the name of the boat
that you were on?
that you are on?
Where did you sail to?
Negotiation.
Negotiation? That's probably not the name of a boat.
Probably not. What is the name of the boat you were on?
How far did you sail to? Hmm?
We try it again.
What happened to Anne's parents? It's a part of a song.
What were Anne's parents' names?
I'm not. Isn't it Vi and some other thing? Hillary.
The ship? No, that's like the
No, let's go.
But we parked on the street this time.
Oh, forgot.
It's an adventure. Adventure. It's said yellow.
Yellow. Cobb pies.
Breakfast and tea. That's a full sentence. So again, when things match up like that, you can't deny it. What do we got going on? Anything?
Wow.
You heard some words?
Yeah.
I have Cobb pies. And negotiation.
That's interesting. Gabe, what do you have?
Yellow and something else.
Oh, you said adventure.
Oh yeah. And
Adventure? So all pretty vague stuff, right? Okay. Well, the most exciting thing was they heard the name Jack, relatable to California. So, we get any laser shots of the front lawn before the tour showed up? Perfect. Yeah, let's stop your video for certain. So we're going to go over to the wall. We'll wrap this up. I'll show you what hand looked like.